Good evening, everyone. Welcome to KDK Studios. It's another round of sound, the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm Bob Pompeani, and boy, do we have a lot to talk about. Need a shoehorn to get it all in tonight. We'll talk about Sidney Crosby, Pat Brisson, his agent, what he said. We're also going to talk about Pitt losing the lead and losing in overtime to West Virginia. But the #1 topic tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown is the Steelers' loss in the home opener. Here to debate is Jeff Hathhorn, sports director, 93.7 The Fan. Ray Fittipaldo, who makes appearances on The Fan all the time with the Post-Gazette, covers the Steelers very well, and Mike DeCourcy, one of the best in the business, out of Point Park University, I might add, with the Sporting News and on television, the Big Ten Network. All right, I'm going to ask you guys this, the blame game. This was a game they were favored to win. They're now 2-6 in home openers. Mike, I'll start with you on this one. Who do you point most of the blame to?
Well, I think there are obviously a lot of things that went wrong, but I'm going to start with the decision not to go for it on 4th and 1 around the 48-yard line in a tie ball game.
Third quarter.
Yeah,
right?
Afterward, Mike Tomlin says, defense is banged up, communication's not great, I don't want to put him on a short field. But what you're saying in that circumstance is you don't trust your D, which is okay because they are banged up and they're missing a bunch of guys in the secondary and they're missing Highsmith, et cetera. So what you have to do then is say, well, we got to score. If we're not going to trust our defense to be elite, then we have to score. And that means going for it there because you're nearly in opposing territory. They punt instead, and they give up a drive that goes 90 yards or so, and now they're playing from behind.
Couldn't stop them. Short field, long field, it didn't matter, Ray.
It's 4th and less than a yard there. And listen, Aaron Rodgers played very well against the Jets, but when you have a quarterback who can't sneak it or you don't want to put it in that circumstance, that's an issue. We saw the Seahawks today. They ran the sneak with a tight end. It's an effective play. The Eagles do it all the time. When you don't have that in those situations, that can come back to bite you. And I think it bit the Steelers today.
Listen, there were some issues. Obviously, Caleb, there was a miscommunication in the end zone on that interception. But the Steelers' inability to get out of third downs, especially third and longs.
Yeah.
I mean, the touchdown run was 3rd and 19.
Third and goal
from the 19.
They were willing to run
I don't
it
even
to
know
set
if
up a
he
field
was
goal.
touched. I don't know if Walker was touched. And, you know, Darnell went from 150 yards to 298. Walker went from 20 yards to over 100. I mean, it's unsettling for the amount of money you're paying this defense.
Well, there's been a theme within the last week after the Jets game. The coaches and the players claim they're not being out-physicaled, okay? It's hard to say that when you see the defensive line being pushed around. But the larger point is there are guys who aren't in the right positions a lot. And the players are saying this. They're not in the right alignment. And when they are, Patrick Queen said this after the game, when they are, they're not making the play. So it's almost twofold, right? You're not lining up right, and when you're in position to make plays, you're not making them.
Well, you saw that in those so many circumstances. Like you said, the touchdown was really problematic, but there were lots of plays where they'd get a sack on first down, and you think that great, they're behind the chains, and then all of a sudden you're completing a third down pass beyond the sticks. The secondary really struggled today, and again, they were down 2 starters, and that's a problem, but they were not in.
Seattle was down 2 starters in their secondary.
Exactly,
too.
but they did. The difference was that they protected their quarterback, and the Steelers' offensive line did not protect Aaron Rodgers at all.
I thought Darnold made maybe the play of the game that goes unnoticed when it was 3rd and 9. Queen had him dead to rights on a blitz. He spun off of it and turned it into a 19-yard gain, which followed with a 43-yard gain and followed with a 20-yard. So, I mean, everything went apart. What about coaching, Ray? Because you just mentioned something earlier, and that people aren't in the right spots. To me, and at the beginning of the game, they hadn't scored in an opening drive touchdown in 22 possessions, or 22, whatever it was, and they finally did. And then in the second half, where I always talk about adjustments, the first possession they have, they drive 80 yards and score.
Yeah, that's the thing. You always talk about adjustments after halftime or, you know, starting fast in both halves, both the first quarter and the second quarter, and they didn't do any of that today. So that's been a big issue. To me, Bob, there's a lot of the same issues that go back to last season. They're not stopping the run, and when you can't stop the run, I don't care what kind of coaches you have, but when you're not able to stop the run, it makes it easy on the quarterback. And Sam Darnold threw for, 300 yards today after he struggled against the 49ers. The main issue for this defense is their inability to stop the run. And if they don't get that fixed, it's going to be a long season.
Well, and here comes an issue when you start having those type of problems, then guys try to take it on their own, put it on their own shoulders that I'm going to make a play. And you know what happens a lot of times is they get out of position and they make it worse, because in this league, it's one guy out of position by a half a foot that could make the difference from a tackle for loss and a 10-yard gain. And I think I worry now that too many guys are out there like, oh man, we got to make plays, and they're making it worse.
To your point, on that play that Darnold made around the left edge when he beat Queen, T.J. Watt was lined up on the right side of the defense. And so I rewatched the play. How did they lose the complete contain? Why wasn't there anybody there? Well, T.J. took a loop and went a stunt to the left, and there was nobody that covered it. Did he do that on his own, or was somebody missed an assignment because they were supposed to come to the opposite side? So there'd be somebody there. Once Queen flushed him out, somebody should have been there to make the play.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to just people in the wrong positions. You got to make those plays. All right, I want to talk about the one that we mentioned that we're going to get into now, and that's Caleb Johnson, because this is a critical play that turned everything around, I thought. And obviously he got confused with still being at Iowa versus in the NFL. But he should have known that. I'm sure they coach that, right? They have to do it. Ray, why did that play go the way it did, and why was he just immediately interested in going off the field? He had to have known that maybe he touched it, and if he thought that, he should have gone after it.
Simply, he did not know the role. And
but even if it touches it?
I understand. That's, first of all, it's an indictment on him, but it's also an indictment on the coaching staff for not reinforcing that. You have a rookie back there. I don't want to say he struggled, Bob, but I question him being on kickoff return to begin with. You were at training camp practices like I was. He was not effective in those situations. Right. You watched the preseason games. He was not effective in those situations. So it seems like they were trying to just get him experience for the sake of getting him experience, and today it came back to bite him.
And what we're seeing from him, even when he does get it, is he's very tentative.
Yeah.
I mean, you see a guy that's just, he doesn't seem to, he's not very confident in what he's doing right now. As for the play, I mean, listen, I'll give him this. After the game, he stood there and talked. He didn't say a lot, but he stood there and talked, still had his uniform on long after the game. This is obviously, we'll get to see what this kid is made out of, because you make a mistake like that everybody sees and everybody understands. I actually kind of feel bad for the kid, but there's no excuse for it.
Football coaches talk all the time about special teams are not nothing, they're a third of the game. Okay, so you watched the entire preseason in which he exhibited no capacity whatsoever to return kicks, and yet they made no change. And you mentioned he doesn't look comfortable. On the return he had where he tried to sweep wide, there was no speed on that. He didn't even run. He was just sort of trotting, trying to see if a hole would open. You've got to run. And again, that just showed he doesn't have that in his game, so why try to force it? They need that part of the game. They were giving up 10 yards on every kickoff exchange. And this is 2 games in which the opposition has topped 30 points. So there have been a lot of kickoffs, and they're giving up 10 yards. The other team's returning to the 35, and you're barely getting to the 25.
We have a lot more to cover here. We'll do that when we come back. Also, Pitt, West Virginia, Sidney Crosby, a lot to get in. We'll do it when we come back, right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. Welcome back, talking about the Steelers and the Seahawks and a loss 31-17. We haven't gotten into the offense so much, but we'll do that right now. Jeff Hathhorn, we saw, if you look at the pass chart, to me it was much resembling what we saw last year. A lot of short passes, not much down the field. Again, Devin Witherspoon did not play, one of 2 guys who was in that second. I thought they'd be more aggressive going down the field, and they weren't.
I mean, Ray, we were both there. I mean, and watching it, there weren't guys open. I mean, Seattle was missing some players, but they did a nice job. And I think some of the pressure that Aaron felt was more on coverage, you know, where he actually had some time if that initial receiver was open. Guys just weren't open. And credit to Seattle. I guess that's a detriment to the Steelers receivers. They did hit the one play that Freiermuth couldn't finish. Yeah. But, I mean, I will say this. If you watch Kansas City, and I know they're 0-2, but watch their offense, it's a lot of short passes, and then they'll hit one down. They did hit one down. It's just when you don't have a run game at all that's consistent, it's very hard to establish that stuff.
Yeah, and I don't want to absolve Aaron Rodgers of the blame, but you mentioned the ball to Freiermuth. I mean, that was, not only did he draw him off sides, but that was on the run, 40-yard dime, put it in his hands. If he makes that play, that maybe changes things. DK Metcalf, 2 or 3 drops. He's making $30 million a year he's got, what, 4 or 5 drops on the season. So their best players have to play good. And in the first 2 weeks, I know DK had a couple catch and runs last week against the Jets, but overall, they need more from their best players.
One of the things that I would love to do when I go back and rewatch is chart the number of incompletions that Aaron Rodgers had because he threw it at the other team, at the receivers' cleats. There had to have been 4 to 5. And that's on 2 things. Either the blocking's not happening or the play design is bad, or maybe you should be play designing, understanding that you don't block very well. So many screen passes that didn't develop. I don't like that part of the Steelers' offense. They're just not good at it. I know they hit the big one to Jalen Warren, but that was mostly Jalen making great elusiveness, and he gets it down to the 5. But for the most part, he is throwing the ball at the other guy's cleats because those plays are not working.
The other thing, getting back to the defense, and I want to get in this before we end this segment, and that's the middle of the field. Chris Hoke told us something today on the postgame show that I hadn't heard him say ever. He said, I've seen more pancake linebackers than I have in my entire life. And that includes, Peyton Wilson, who was in the middle of it a lot. I mean, he's learning, he's a starter now. It's not easy.
Yeah.
But, man, I would think other teams are going to keep attacking the middle of the field until they show they can stop it.
Yeah, listen, I thought Patrick Queen played well early. The Seahawks didn't gouge him in the run from the beginning. They just kind of accumulated the yards late in the game. He was good early. You're going with Peyton Wilson. He's your starter now. They got rid of Landon Roberts. They didn't invite him back. The question now is, do they go back to Cole Holcomb? Is he the same player pre-injury? If he is, you got to give him a shot. I'm just not sure that he is, Jeff.
Yeah, and I think part of the issue we're seeing also middle of the field, there were a couple of those throws where he had too much time. There isn't enough pressure.
Right.
I mean, the quarterback's able to sit back there, allow that to develop, allow the receiver to find that hole in the zone, to find that gap in the middle of the field, and he was able to do it. And, I mean, they've got to get more. They're paying their outside guys a lot.
Watt hasn't had a sack in 6 straight games.
Right.
Dating back to last year.
The problem with the guys getting pancaked is somebody is getting through to pancake.
Right.
They are not getting the resistance at the line of scrimmage that they should be. One of the things that I saw that Seattle did, which was really interesting, was double teaming Keanu Benton. You don't think after last week that you need to double team him, but double teaming him ensured that he was no factor. He could not, if he couldn't get off 1 block, he certainly wasn't getting off 2, and they had a lot of success with that.
Yeah, well, real quick, concern meter going into New England. 1-1, I know it's a short sample size, and you see ups and downs in the NFL season. If your concern meter was low last week, what is it this week, Jeff?
I mean, it's just 2 games, but my concern meter, looking at other teams in the league, 7 or 8.
I was going to say 7.5. It's pretty high.
I can't disagree with that at all.
Yeah, and we'll find out. They got New England next week at 1 o'clock, and that will be interesting to see because New England was victorious today down in Miami. When we come back, we're going to talk about Pitt and West Virginia, the backyard brawl. We're not going to see it for a few more years, and that means the pain's going to last for Pat Narduzzi and Pitt for at least 3 years. We'll talk about that next as we continue on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. All right, Pitt, West Virginia, you saw what happened. Pitt had a lead. They should have won the game, and they didn't. And this has become sort of a trend when they lose this way. West Virginia, Jeff, they didn't have their leading rusher. He's out for the year. Their quarterback situation was kind of unstable. And yet, Pat Narduzzi's defense allowed a lot of yards late when they're trying to protect a 10-point lead. Your thoughts?
Yeah, early in the game, I thought, Eli Holstein missed some open receivers. They had a chance for some big plays. And missed opportunities was a theme in this game. And then in the second half, they got two picks in the red zone, and they settled for 2 field goals. You had a chance to bury them right there, and you didn't, much like the Steelers in a way today. They didn't bury them. They didn't finish them. They let West Virginia hang around, and they started making some plays, got some confidence. I think Pitt got a little rattled, and it all went their way.
Yeah, the talk going into that game was Pitt's going to handle them on their home field. New coach, a bunch of new players at West Virginia. But when you let a team stay in the game early and you just give them that little bit of hope, even though they got behind again by 10 points, they still had that hope and that conviction that they can get it done. And credit to Rich Rodriguez. I mean, his team fought, they played hard, and it was a great win for them.
One of the reasons West Virginia had to have confidence is because they could have watched any game film on Pitt over the last decade. Pitt does not play what we often call prevent defense. They continue to press on the corners. no matter what the game circumstance is.
Some people would applaud that, by the way, but it's the wrong approach. You're right.
Not when you're up 10 points.
Right, you try to
can't
protect
do
the
that.
lead. Right.
You got to protect the lead, and they give up because they are doing that. They give up consistently passes beyond the sticks, including a streak to a tight end down the middle of the field for 30 or so yards that changes field position. That approach, when you're up like that, especially when you've done it before and it hasn't worked, it really cost them yesterday.
Well, and I want to add this because Ray brought this up. I mean, people think of Rich Rodriguez as 13-9. Rich Rodriguez is a hell of a football coach, and he coached a really good game in that game. And Pitt was without both of its starting corners and also pressing, to your point. Yeah. I mean, they didn't go down in game. They were gone for the entire game. And that, I think, played a factor in that.
And when you have backups doing that, that's the wrong approach. You're trying to, the clock's your ally at that point, right? And so what does this mean for Pitt then? Ray, I'll start with you, because that's a game people looked at that Ohio game from West Virginia and said, oh my, they're not going to beat Pitt. And I think Pitt is a better team. I think they have better athletes overall. But what's it mean for Pitt now moving into conference play?
Pitt had a great start last year, and then the bottom fell out. I just wonder if the bottom's going to fall out even quicker this year. Listen, the ACC is not great. Holstein didn't play great yesterday, although he picked it up a little bit. I just don't see an avenue for them to be really competitive in the ACC.
Well, I think the number is 6 consecutive losses now against P4 competition, Power 4 conference, Big 12, right. ACC, Big 10, SEC. That group, they've lost 6 in a row, and the next game will be against another one of those. They really need to get back and show that they can beat that level of competition. You can't just beat Duquesne when you're the Pitt coach.
It's again, a Steeler parallel. They can't run the football consistently, which has got to drive Narduzzi crazy. They cannot establish a run game, and when you can't, a lot of the other stuff you want to do, you're unable to do. And look what we saw this weekend. Georgia Tech has taken a step. NC State's pretty decent. Florida State's kind of back to Florida State. We know Miami's good. Clemson. I mean,
Clemson's still good despite their losses. I still think they're
yeah. I mean, I think now you're looking at it and you're thinking, okay, maybe Pitt was here. Well, some of the other teams are also here, and it's going to be a dogfight for them in the ACC.
Yeah, I think it will. And now we won't see this for the next 3 years or so. And then when it comes back, there was an extension. Pitt and West Virginia will play through, I believe, 2036. When we come back, lots of talk about Sidney Crosby's future this week. We'll tell you why and what we think will happen coming up next, right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. Well, we got an interesting comment from Pat Brisson this week, the agent for Sidney Crosby. Before, they've stayed away from this topic, but it was brought up. Is it possible for him to be traded? And he didn't say no. He said it's a possibility, and a lot of things have to happen for it to happen. But, Jeff, this is interesting because, he's always said he wanted to be a Penguin forever, but things are not very good right now. They've lost 3 years in a row of being in the playoffs. He wants to play in high-leverage games. He has 2 years left, this and next year, and then who knows? He's still playing at a high level. What do you think happens? And if there is a trade, what would it look like?
I think this goes up against what does this team look like if they trade Raquel and Rust, which is a possibility. Are they looking at a 25-win season? Sid doesn't want to be a part of that. It's one thing to grow a young team and be a part of something developing, even if you don't make the playoffs. But if you're just selling off assets and you're no good, I think this was a message from Sid. I don't want to be a part of that. I'm willing to be a part of something building, but if you're just dumping it down to get rid of some of these guys that can still play, they're under team-friendly contracts, then I don't want to be a part of it.
But they haven't traded them yet. They're still here.
They are.
So we'll see.
Maybe he saw that Mario and Burkle weren't going to get the team again, and maybe he is looking for a way out. In this town, I think sometimes we get fixated on players spending their entire careers here. It's happened so often, Bradshaw, Green, Lemieux, but Wayne Gretzky changed teams, right?
Well, Brisson kept mentioning Tom Brady. Not that he was traded, but he went to another team.
So sometimes, listen, if you can get the right package and it can help you rebuild, Sid could actually help the team in the future if he is traded.
I have a hard time seeing a package that would help the team enough to justify allowing Sidney Crosby to leave. Now, in 2 years, when the contract runs out, and that may be his circumstance, he may decide at the end of the 2 years that he wants to be Tom Brady, and no one can stop him at that point. The Penguins could offer to try to extend him again, but he could easily say no. So, but for now, if they do what you talked about with the sell-off, that would be a different circumstance. But as long as they're trying to field a competitive team, And they have been relatively trying to do that, just haven't been very effective at
They're
it.
trying to do two different things, though. It makes it impossible to try to go full in on trying to be competitive when you're trying to rebuild in the same time.
Right, here's what's interesting. Fenway's trying to sell them, right? If I'm looking to buy them and I'm thinking, well, wait, if Sid's not there, how is that going to damage attendance for the season whenever you make that move? I'm not going to pay this now because I'm going to lose my shirt in that first year or first couple of years because Crosby isn't there. That's what's an interesting factor in this.
But the valuation still goes up. They're going to have franchise coming in, new ones, and they're going to charge $2 billion each. So whatever you buy, you'll get. And the fact that the Fenway Sports Group bought it at $900 million, sold it for $1.5 million, it looks like that's a $600 million profit, despite not making the playoffs and losing attendance every year. So it's a tough thing to figure out. If you're here's something that's not tough to figure out. If you're in the market for a new vehicle, don't settle for anything less than #1 Cochran's Kia's clearly better car buying experience. You can enjoy exclusive, clear-cut pricing where you get the most competitive offer and you get it up front. Take advantage of exceptional lease and finance rates and choose from a lineup of nearly 200 new models. Experience clearly better car buying at #1 Cochran Kia, in-store, online, cochrankia.com.